And you also host a podcast as well, the Undead Gaming Cast. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a podcast that, like I said, I've been doing on and off for a while now, but we've been doing it very regularly and we'll continue to do so. I probably shouldn't say that because then it makes it seem like I'm going to stop doing it at any moment.
Welcome to Breakfast in Beauclair, a global Witcher podcast. My name is Alyssa from GoodMorhen, and I'll be your host as you, I, and our international hanza accompany Geralt of Rivia and his destiny, Cirilla of Cintra, across the continent. Hope you all have been having a good week. If you've been following me on social media, you know that I've been eyeballs deep in Charlotte Podcast Festival, learning a ton of new things that I'm excited to bring back to the podcast and bring back to you guys in Season 2 and Season 3. I've been learning a lot of new techniques in terms of content, storytelling, audio editing, and community building, and really looking forward to implementing them in Season 3, which kicks off in February 2021. This week, we have a new member of our community to welcome to the company. Welcome Jess S. from episodes 23 and 24, who joins our hanza on Patreon. For just $1 per episode, receive a shout-out on an episode and access to all of the digital bonus content on Patreon. That's an extra 2 hours, 56 minutes, and 13 seconds of behind-the-scenes content from the podcast, plus whatever ends up on the cutting room floor from this episode. Bits to look forward to this weekend are more of Rob's stories from his time in live theater, plus my stories from high school theater, and Rob and I discuss weird pillow talk. Jess joins our other patrons and producer-level patrons, Louise of Covier, the owner of the Churlish Porpoise, Eric's the Godling, Katie the Redhead of Toussaint, Jacob B. Julie, Sylvia of Skellige, Jameson, Ava of Gullet, B. Haven of the Edge of the World, Jacob Meeks, Charlotte from Vengerberg Glamorai, Red Kite, the Original Roach, Ariel Kitty, the One True Chef, Dustin, Chris K. of Covier, and Libby, the Castel Ravello Sommelier. If you'd like to explore becoming a patron of the show, head over to patreon.com/breakfastinbeauclair. Thanks to our patrons, we're able to donate $1 per patron toward charitable causes throughout the year. At the time of release, we have 41 patrons on Patreon, and thanks to patrons Gennady and Red Kite for their suggestions for organizations to donate to this quarter. For the last community donation of the year, and in honor of Siri at the patron's suggestion, I've chosen to donate toward War Child UK, the organization that Anya Shalotra's prop auction supported back in August. Thanks to your support, we've donated £41 or $53 toward their efforts in providing support to children whose lives have been affected by armed conflict. If you'd like to learn more about the organization, visit warchild.org.uk. As for this episode, Rob, the Undead Gamer from England, calls in for the first half of episode 106, Rare Species from Netflix's The Witcher. Join us as we discuss LARPing around England, reflect on relationships and destiny, chat health and safety violations, and through mysterious strangers, 2 hopeless exes, and a Golden Dragon Subtweeting. In our mid-episode news segment, Tidings from Toussaint, Larson Witcherflix shares exciting production updates and rumors for Season 2 of Netflix's The Witcher and beyond. Without further ado, let's get to the discussion for The Witcher Episode 106, Rare Species, Part 1. Welcome to Breakfast in Beauclair. My name's Alyssa, and joining us today is Rob, the Undead Gamer from England. Hey, Rob.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good, and yourself?
Yeah, pretty good.
Awesome. So, Rob, this is your first time on the show. Do you want to introduce yourself to the hanza?
Yeah, so hi guys. I'm Rob. I'm an actor, musician, performer, and streamer. Massive fan of The Witcher. And yeah, hopefully here to share some insights of stuff that I think about for The Witcher, which you're prone to come and listen to.
Awesome. You know, that's exactly why I bring on people onto the show, so glad to hear that you're perfect for it. I'd love to hear more about the kinds of work that you do as an actor and performer.
Yeah, so I've been an actor, performer professionally for about the last 4 years or so I'm still like really early on in my career. I've had a few like pretty cool breaks, mostly sort of theatre stuff, and I've done a UK tour, and I did a tour in Italy a couple of years ago as well. Done a few short films here and there, some voiceover work, but fingers crossed for the future. Maybe, you know, might even see me in The Witcher, a little show on Netflix. I'm just sort of enjoying the sort of early stages of my career and sort of seeing where it goes, really.
So could you tell us a little bit more about the shows that you've been in or the kinds of roles that you like to play or performance that particularly interest you?
Yeah, of course. So I'm mostly gearing towards trying to be in sort of like TV and sort of film acting, just because there's a lot you can do there. And, you know, if you're lucky, make a fairly comfortable living out of it, sort of like with a regular income. So that's kind of like the goal. But I would love to absolutely be in something that's medieval fantasy or anything like that, you know, swords and sorcery, that sort of thing. So I'm a massive nerd for that sort of stuff. Yeah, like TV dramas, anything like that, really. So far, not quite happened yet. I've mostly been involved in sort of theatre tours that have been run by smaller theatre companies, children's shows and that sort of thing. I've been very, very lucky to be part of like big sort of long 6-month tours that have taken me all over the UK, like I said, and I was really lucky to do one that took me all over Italy as well. You know, even on like the small scale, I've been really lucky so far to have interesting jobs.
Yeah.
The shows, like, obviously are geared towards usually children and families and that sort of thing. So, you know, sort of play a bunch of weird and wacky characters and your slapstick comedy type stuff, anything and everything in between, really, which is real good fun. You know, and there's a bit of music here and there. I play instruments, so a good skill to bring to the table involving live music and whatnot. It's just been a bit of a ride in that respect, which has been nice sort of on that touring life. At this stage of my career, because I'm so early on, like I said, it's kind of like, you know, as long as I'm comfortable with it and I'm up for it, then I'll do anything, as it were. You know, if it's a theatre job, a TV job, whatever it is, whatever sort of role, if I think I can do it, then I'll absolutely sort of jump on it, really.
Just out of curiosity, because you mentioned you've had some weird and wacky roles in the past. And I think on top of that, one of the most beautiful things about a theater experience is that it's live. It is that no two shows really are the same.
Yeah.
Do you have any, like, interesting stories or interesting like nights from one of those performances where either things were particularly good or things went particularly awry?
Like, oh man, so usually with like theatre stuff, sometimes you get away with little things just going wrong. Maybe you forget a line, or maybe one of your colleagues or fellow actors sort of forgets their line, and you sort of cover for each other and sort of you've got each other's back. Mm-hmm. But there's definitely been occasions where something big goes wrong, and then everything else after that is prone to also go wrong.
Yeah.
If you can just recover from it, and I think it's just like a team thing, really. You just sort of rely on each other you've got each other's back, and if something really goes wrong, then usually someone's there to just like pick up the pieces and get you going again.
Yeah.
One of the shows I was doing, one of the characters I was playing was like a mad scientist sort of dude. And I'd spilled a substantial amount of water on stage accidentally. And in the zone, I just instantly took off my lab coat, threw it on the floor to try and soak it up, and then started sort of jumping up on it, up and down, to try and like get it to soak. I was just in the character, I think. And I saw the girl that I was on stage with at the time just trying her best not to laugh at all of this going on, keep a straight face and just sort of keep the scene moving, right, even though this absolute nonsense was just transpiring before her and the audience.
Yeah.
And after the show, she was like, what the hell was that? What happened there? And I was like, I don't know. It seemed right at the time. It made sense to just try and get rid of this water as quick as we can. Because normally, like, shows just stop. If something like that sort of goes wrong and there's, like, danger to the actors, shows generally sort of stop after the scene, and then they get cleared, stuff like that gets cleared away. But I didn't even think that. I just was like, no, I've got to deal with this now. Got to deal with this. But I did it in character. So, you know.
That's amazing. Oh my God.
Doing the same show, you know, again and again and again. Sometimes you sort of do things to try and freshen it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll change a line. I think actors always have this thing, especially when you're, like I said, doing the same show day in, day out, sometimes twice, maybe 3 times a day. You try and have a little bit of fun with it. There's definitely been occasions with like my, you know, fellow actors where I've tried to purposely say something that I know will make them laugh, or make them, what we say is corpse on stage, where you basically uncontrollably laugh. Kind of stops the show a little bit, but it's, you know, just it's a good challenge to not laugh when something sort of goes wrong or something weird has been said. So, you know, it's just a little thing that actors sort of do in jest with each other to, you know, just a bit of fun. It's a total, like, dick move, but it always makes things a little bit more interesting, a little bit more fun.
Yeah, and it definitely brightens up the experience, I think, and just, like, builds camaraderie. Like, I think that's the one thing about theater is it always feels like family.
Absolutely.
There's, like, a beautiful community experience to it for everyone involved, and then you get to share that every night with an audience. So something else that you happened to mention as you were giving your introduction was that, you'd be interested in acting in science fiction or fantasy. And you do that to an extent in a capacity. I don't know what these are called. I don't know enough about it. Do you mind telling us about your character and the way in which you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. At the moment, it's the closest I'm ever going to get to playing characters like that. So I grab it as much as I can. But yeah, so I've been LARPing for about 8 years now or so. You've had a guest on before talk about it.
Yes.
So it's a live action role play. In a sense, it's just basically sort of a big improv theatre almost. It's generally got a storyline, but it's sort of like an open and fluid storyline that is influenced and affected by the players and the player decision and how the players drive the story. There's lots of different systems all over the world. The UK's first and only Witcher LARP, called the Northern Kingdoms, started more recently in 2018, which is a system that sort of goes about all over the UK. They pick different sites to do these weekend events. I'm lucky enough to play a Witcher in that system, which is really cool because there's limited player slots to play a Witcher, and I play a Witcher from the Bear School called Balder. So living my best life as a Witcher.
You do have videos, or I think there are videos from the Northern Kingdom site where you do an interview with them and you can actually see you fully dressed in costume. I'll definitely link it in the show notes.
Yeah, thank you.
My dad has already seen this video.
Shout out to your dad.
I did show my dad this video because he was curious about what LARPing was and what LARPing as a Witcher was. So I showed it to him. So I'll definitely share it with the rest of the community and the listeners as well. So we did have Louisa on, who was on episodes 12 and 13, talking about A Little Sacrifice, and she did tell us a little bit about the LARPing community in Germany. Obviously, without spoilers, I don't really know how these things work, but could you tell us a little bit more about what the Northern Kingdom storyline is or what the LARPing community in the UK is like?
Simon Deacon, who runs Northern Kingdoms, contacted not only CD Projekt Red, who obviously made the video games, but also the Witcher School in Poland. And we are kind of connected in sort of partnership, as it were. So that's cool. But as far as I know, that the Witcher School in Poland is kind of set way before the books, when sort of the Witchers are just starting out. So everything's really new, everything's really fresh. But the Northern Kingdoms has decided to sort of take the timeline just before the Witcher 3 video game. So just as that third Nilfgaardian War is kicking off, basically. The premise of the player base is the Free Company. They came about and did stuff during the Second Nilfgaardian War, and now that the Third War's kicked off in this timeline of the LARP game, the Free Company has come together once again to invite any and all people who want to fight in the war on behalf of the Free Company and maybe make some money out of it, or whatever your motivations are. You can play anyone from the sort of Northern Kingdoms. We're against the Nilfgaardians. They are the enemy. So you can play for a person from Redania, Temeria, whoever it is, whatever it is, whether that's a warrior of some sort, a knight, a bard, a sorceress or a sorcerer, or in my case, a witcher. Yeah, it's kind of open to anything. He's basing things off of the lore and the story, using elements from The Witcher 3. In the timeline of the LARP game, we're under the assumption that Geralt just proceeded with trying to find Ciri.
Yeah.
Left everything else behind, didn't play Gwent, didn't do any of the other nonsense. He just went and found Ciri, which kind of opens it up for us to maybe do some elements that were side quests in the game, which is pretty cool, or have those elements involved in the storyline and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been really, really cool. So far, the events have taken us from the Pontar, where we were on the front line. We moved over to Skellige to do some stuff, and now we're on our way to Tucson very soon, in whenever the next event is. To do some stuff and trying to harken into the Blood and Wine expansion, where you've got the tournament in Beauclair. Really, really looking forward to that. But yeah, I just basically go there. I play a Witcher called Balder, like I said, from the Bear School, and I pick up contracts and fight monsters and try and live my best life. And it's awesome.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff in there I want to ask questions about. So for listeners, if I'm remembering this correctly, the Free Company, we do hear about it a little bit in the saga.
Yeah.
And I do believe that it's mostly in Lady of the Lake. So if you haven't read the books yet, or if you haven't gotten through the saga yet, you'll definitely get to see the Free Company and be with them in Lady of the Lake.
Yeah, so those characters actually have appeared in the LARP game as non-player characters. So the people that run it fill in world fleshing out characters, basically. So yeah, sort of getting us kickstarted as the free company, which was really, really cool. Fringilla Vigo has appeared. A bunch of Jarls, obviously, from Skellige we met, which was really, really cool. Yeah, so and it's nice as well that the crew that are behind it, they really put their all into playing these characters and trying to represent them.
Yeah.
Not just realistic way, but in a way that you'd hope they're portrayed from the books or from the games or whatever. They try and stay true to the source material, as it were. Even the people that are forced into the Drowner suits and the Necker suits and stuff like that do a really, really good job of becoming those characters to make you feel like you're in a dangerous situation and stuff like that, which is really, really cool. The wraiths and stuff that I've fought gets really intense sometimes. It's really weird how you can just be, you put this costume on, you're involved in this situation, you've got all these characters and people dressed in these costumes around you, and you just get so invested and so involved, and you just sort of lose yourself in this world and forget about Facebook or Twitter or whatever it is, your job or whatever it is that's going on, and you just get immersed in this situation, in this world. And it's just, it's really, really great to just live out, just to let loose and enjoy and be someone else for a bit.
Yeah, Louisa said the same thing on her episodes. It was almost like, she just completely forgot about her regular life. And then there would be that period of like assimilating again back into her normal life. Yeah,
I connected so much with that episode because everything Louisa was saying was spot on.
Yeah.
Because you just do. I literally go away and I turn off my phone for the entire weekend. I'm literally there to forget everything, get involved and just lose myself in this situation and, just really throw everything into it and just enjoy and experience it as authentically as I can, I guess, which sounds really weird and really strange, but you just get so wrapped up. And even emotionally, I've cried in situations at LARPs before because I've been so emotionally invested, or I've become really angry. So you have to check yourself sometimes because this is all still make-believe and stuff, but just comes out in sort of the role play and the acting that you're doing, really. Yeah, you can get very emotionally invested and drained from it. Like Louisa said, you do have to readjust a little bit after the event. You're leaving that world and coming back into the real world, but there's all these situations that have happened to you, that you've experienced and you've gone through, and you've got to process those, but hey, you got to get up at 7 o'clock the next morning and go to work or whatever. So it's, it's weird, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah. That's one of the things I think about this community in general and what events like this do for people in this community, how to engage people, how to make them feel involved. And obviously there's something for everyone, which makes me really happy, and that there's communities for people to gravitate toward as well. So if you're in the UK, or if you're UK adjacent or willing to travel, definitely check out the Northern Kingdoms LARP. I believe they do have a Facebook page, maybe a website.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll also link it in the show notes as well.
It's literally brought people from not only all over the UK, but like you said, adjacent countries. We have people from Spain that are involved in the game that come over, Ireland as well. But I've met people who are also part of the LARP community, or the Witcher LARP community in Germany as well, who have got really amazing costumes and such an awesome thing. And, there's so much support and so much for everyone to get involved with, no matter what your background is or who you are or whatever it is, LARP has got benefits for everyone and anyone, whether it's a case of you want to try a Witcher LARP, Northern Kingdoms or whatever it is, or, just something more generic fantasy, or, I don't know, steampunk or science fiction or zombie apocalypse, whatever it is, that there is a system or a game out there for absolutely everyone. Big, small, you name it, you can find something that will suit you and fit what you want to play. And it's, just really welcoming and supportive, like I said. Yeah, it's just a really, really, really awesome thing. And it's worldwide as well. So, I follow people that LARP in Australia, the US, all over. It's insane.
Having a global movement is that's the dream, right?
Absolutely.
It's really beautiful to see that happen. So I'd just like to turn the conversation quickly over to the work that you're doing personally, your Twitch stream and your podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been sort of involved with YouTube and Twitch content since 2013. I stream most days of the week, and it's just something that I can do on my own time that allows me to perform to a degree and just play video games, which I absolutely love and adore. And perform to people, but also be involved in a community of people that watch me and watch the games I'm playing, and we sort of sharing the experience, I suppose.
And you also host a podcast as well, the Undead Gaming Cast.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been doing the Undead Gaming Cast for a while now, and it is just a monthly gaming podcast that me and my buddy Singularity Josh, well, that's his handle on the internet, and we talk about video games, the industry, and stuff and things. What we've been playing, what we've been up to, what games we've been enjoying, news topics of the month. We will sort of talk about and discuss and share our opinions on them and all that sort of thing. So it's just kind of a nice community feel of just gamers talking about video games. And that hopefully people can just, relate to and enjoy. We also do that live on Twitch on the last Tuesday of every month. And then it goes out as a VOD on YouTube and then audio form on Apple Podcast and Spotify and all the places. So lots of ways to watch it, which is really cool.
That's awesome. So if anyone in the community would like to follow Rob, check out the Undead Gaming Cast anywhere, I guess.
Best place to be would be twitch.tv/TheUndeadGamr. And that's gamer without the E, but I'm sure you'll put links, I suppose, in places.
Yeah. And we'll also have another streamer 2 episodes from now, much more. We'll be speaking with Tracy, Miss Magitech, and getting her perspective on streaming as well. So it's really cool to see, obviously you and Louisa have similar experiences when it comes to LARPing, and then we'll be able to see multiple approaches to streaming as well, which is really exciting.
It's insane, because even like we were saying earlier about the LARP community, even this hanza, this little community, or I suppose growing every day, the community that have come to listen to this awesome podcast, there's so much crossover of people just being interested in not just The Witcher, but it's what else do you do? You're a LARPer, you stream on Twitch or whatever it is. It's amazing that the sort of spider webs, extend out to communities all over just connecting, and it's all just because of this one thing, which is, it's awesome. You've done an awesome thing, not to sort of fanboy over you and your podcast, but it's just such a great podcast, and it's been a delight to not just listen to as people who are interested in The Witcher and the books and whatnot, but just how the community, every episode, it just grows and grows and grows and grows, and all these people that are of like mind, and just because of this one little thing called The Witcher, just come together just to sort of share in this awesome fandom. And I think communities like this are just wonderful.
Yeah.
It's always nice to sort of find your tribe, as it were, and find people that are of like mind and like the same things that you like, and then you can just do what we're doing in this podcast and just totally nerd out about it and fanboy, fangirl, fan whoever over it.
Yeah.
It's just a wonderful thing to be a part of, I think.
Yeah, I think that was the cool thing about doing this. I've tried my hand at making content before, but the work became a lot more purposeful when it was attached to a community that I believed in, a community that I could actively contribute to, which is what has made Breakfast in Beauclair and GoodMorhen as well so incredibly rewarding. The very first episode of season 2, The End's Beginning, just came out 2 days ago. It's currently Saturday, June 6th. And last night we passed 25,000 downloads.
Oh, wow.
Which is crazy to me. Obviously that's still quite small for a podcast. It's far exceeded my expectations, and it's been such a journey with everyone, and I've been really grateful to be able to do it.
Absolutely. Even the silly little things, the start or the end of your podcast, where you're talking about the new patrons that you've had, and obviously that list grew and grew and grew,
yeah,
to the point where you had to sort of speed that section up, where you were just saying them really, really fast. It's it is growing.
I don't speed that up. I say it that fast.
Do you not?
Yeah,
Oh
I say
God.
it that fast.
Alyssa.
When I did it for the opening episode of season 2, the one that just went out, I sat there and I recorded the outro, and I actually did it faster than I needed to. And I didn't have to slow it down, but I had to add spaces into it. But if you listen to episode 16, The End's Beginning, and you listen to my outro at the end, I'm actually speaking that fast. And I surprised myself by doing that.
Well, there you go. There you go. Behind the scenes look at Breakfast in Beauclair.
Maybe one day I'll have to speed it, or I'll have to kindly ask the people who have made the music for the show, Mojo Filter Media, to give me a looped version that I could just play forever. Today we'll be discussing Rare Species, the 6th episode in Netflix's first season of The Witcher. This episode adapts Andrzej Sapkowski's short story, The Bounds of Reason, from Sword of Destiny, in which Geralt joins a dragon hunting party with his old flame, Yennefer. In the present, Nilfgaard's attempt to capture Ciri, the Cintran princess, backfires. In Geralt and Yennefer's storyline, the Witcher sorceress and Jaskier the bard meet again, this time on a dragon hunt. We get the introduction through Jaskier, who's composing his newest ballad, which we'll learn about throughout the episode. And Jaskier and these two townsmen are waiting outside of a cave for Geralt. They attempt to steal the Witcher's belongings, but they're stopped by an old man and his companions. The man, Borch, asks Geralt to join him on King Nidamir's hunt for a dragon, and Geralt rejects the offer until Yennefer arrives.
I really like how this opens up this episode. That song, and I'll probably say it again, that song is still my absolute favourite song out of the whole series, personally. But yeah, it's just really nice to see the sort of early workings of that song and how it sort of opens up all quite picturesque. And yeah, the two guys just waiting for Geralt to come out before thinking, he's dead, we're just going to steal his stuff then.
Yeah.
And Jaskier trying to handle the situation, probably feeling quite unequipped to do that.
It's like the worst guard dog.
Literally.
It's like having a Pomeranian as a guard dog. Like really, really fancy, but not very useful.
Yeah. And I just love that he's like, does that sound good? Gorgeous Garota? Like, is that, what do you guys think? Is that too much? Like, it's like they are not listening to you, my guy. They do not care.
Oh man, I think it's a nice scene to see multiple characters, seeing these people who have no, I guess, respect for Geralt, and then how Jaskier doesn't handle it. And then what happens when these, three new characters, Borch, Taya, and Vea, step in. They are like no characters that we've seen before in the series, so they stand out quite a bit. So, as I said earlier, it's June 6th right now. On April 24th, comicbook.com did a quarantine watch party on Twitter with the director, Charlotte Brandstrom, Lauren Hisrick, Matt D'Ambrosio, as well as the writer for this episode, Haley Hall. So we got to hear a lot of behind-the-scenes facts and tidbits about the way that the episode was done in production. In this quarantine watch party, Lauren Hisrick, the showrunner, did mention that this wasn't the original opening for this episode. She mentioned Charlotte Brandstrom and her went back and forth a couple of times in the edit bay about how the episode would start. And apparently they had considered showing Yennefer and Geralt's relationship between episode 5, Bottled Appetites, and episode 6, Rare Species. So we were going to, get some sort of montage of their relationship. So that was apparently one of the original ideas that they changed, and they went just straight into the story.
That montage, was that used later or was it not filmed at all?
Like parts of it were used later, yeah.
Sure, yeah. So during that tent scene, as it were.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that would have been interesting, but I think how it opened up was more than adequate, especially as, like you said, if we see elements of that, which we do later anyway, because there is a montage in that tent scene much later on in the episode. I think if you're sort of familiar with the stories, as most of us are anyway, it's probably safe to assume that we understand that Geralt and Yennefer always have a bit of a rocky relationship anyway, and they're always on and off. It may have been relatively confusing for people who are just watching the show or are new to the show, new to The Witcher in general through the show. But I think it was a nice opening and introduction to the story to sort of really just throw ourselves straight into a Bound of Reason, story basically. And, it started relatively similar to the book anyway, minus a fair few characters. It's very minimalistic in its approach. And I think that's a bit of a theme throughout this adaptation, that it's fairly minimal.
And we'll definitely get to, talk about comparisons to the books in the second half of the episode too. It's interesting, like in these opening scenes, like we go with Borch, Geralt, Taya, Vea, and Jaskier. We're like getting a big party. And we move to a tavern scene where Borch is now telling Geralt why he's been looking for him. So it turns out that Borch has been signed on to hunt for a dragon for King Nidamir. And apparently the person will be given the reward from the dragon as well as become lord of one of Nidamir's vassal estates. Borch is one of the teams that are going out for this, and there are 3 others. Dwarves, which are being headed by Yarp and Zigrin. The Reavers, which we don't know much about, but when we see them in this opening sequence, they're just groping women, and that's kind of our impression of them at the start. And then the last team that's there is Yennefer and this knight Ike. Geralt is saying no the whole time. He's like, I don't want to do this. I don't kill dragons, meh. And he's really giving Borch nothing to work with. And then he sees Yennefer, and there are all these memes on the internet where as soon as it sees Yennefer, it just says, fuck, I'm in.
Yeah.
Did you have like any thoughts on some of these opening sequences?
The tavern scene in general, the way already we're introduced to Borch and Taya and Vea, who I think the casting for these 3 was amazing. All 3 of them did a fantastic job. Borch being sort of like very welcoming and warm and lovely, and Taya and Vea being very ominous and mysterious and just badass, just totally like steel won't be necessary. I'm like, tell me more. Yeah, the whole sort of tavern scene, I think it's very nicely filmed, and the way you sort of follow them all through the tavern to when they get to their seat, where you see some of the reavers by the door and they're all looking thuggish and ominous, and you get a really good picture of who all of these characters are when you're introduced. Yarpin asking for that ale, amazing.
Yeah,
you just get some really perfect snapshots without any sort of dialogue from those characters of who these people are and who we might be up against in this sort of dragon hunt, as it were. Then, obviously the introduction of Ike and Yennefer, which gets Geralt interested in coming along. Like you said, they changed the introduction to this episode, but I think even that alone, just Geralt and Yennefer's eye contact in that moment, no dialogue, just that eye contact that they shared in that scene when, she walks in, that instantly sort of says that there's some history here. They've not seen each other in a while. They're shocked to see each other here. Like, stuff's about to go down. I just think it's a really nice scene. And the way also Borch rounds everything up.
Yeah. In
the story, in the book, you kind of get a little bit later on, and I think most of it's from Dandelion or Jaskier, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's nice that you get like a nice synopsis straight then and there, which really just, it's in like within the first 5-10 minutes of the show as well, of the episode, where it's just like, we know exactly where this is going, we know exactly what we're doing, like, let's get on to the meat of things. Doesn't mess around.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely drops in the viewer quick into the situation and then orients the viewer a bit by, as you said, like detailing who these people are and what's about to happen. But it does happen very fast. Like, we're like 4 minutes into the episode.
and already he's laid out everything he wants. I've been looking for you for this reason. This is going on. Come and help me. These are the other guys. Let's go. You in?
Exactly. And then his ex gets thrown in there and then everything goes to shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Can you imagine just like running into your ex like pre-cell phones? Like, that must be the worst. That must be the absolute worst.
Literally, yeah. And especially just with the professions that the two of them have. It's like there's an entire continent. There's an entire continent that you could be in. The chances of you seeing each other, like you said, pre-cell phones or whatever it is, in a massive continent, and you still wind up in the same little tavern, in the same little town, same little part of the world. What are the odds? That's fate and destiny for you.
Yeah, so at this point, the hunting party sets off on the path the following morning. They have a lot of conversations. Jaskier talks to Taya and Vea. Borch has a conversation with Geralt about Yennefer. And then eventually, Jaskier wanders into the bramble looking for, a snack for Taya and Vea because he's so charming, and is confronted by a monster, a Harika, which Ike cuts down savagely. The whole kind of outset of this hunt, really interesting. We get to meet Yarpin, who's played by Jeremy Crawford, who's a member of our hanza.
Shout out to you, dude. Fantastic job. Fantastic job.
And then we really see the first interaction of Geralt and Yennefer. Woo, and it's heavy. It is heavy. As both Rob and I have said, it's like they're seeing each other for the first time in who knows how many years. For people who haven't read the books yet, they know that it's tense, if anything. So that is something that we'll continue to kind of unpack throughout the episode. But it's a little bit tender.
Yeah. That look aside from the previous scene, this little interaction that the two of them have with the horses just really sets in stone where they're at. And I suppose the anger that they have towards each other, but I don't know how to describe it. I think they're both sort of angry at each other with the situation, with themselves, with how they treat each other, and I suppose fight the true feelings that they have. I guess they definitely left things in a rocky place. And I suppose with them not having seen each other for years, which is evident, that has no doubt built up and built up and built up and built up. And then they see each other in the same place, same little tavern in the same little part of the world. And it probably just boils over a little bit in that moment. So they've just got to snipe at each other, I suppose.
I know. And we do know that it's been years because there's a brief exchange between Jaskier and Yennefer in which she just turns to him and says, "The crow's feet are new." And it's just
savage.
Just a little bit scathing, yeah. Jaskier finds a monster, Ike, who's been like a little bit weird. He just seems a little odd in a religious sense.
For kingdom and glory.
For kingdom and glory, yep. They run into this monster, which Geralt says is harmless and starving, and Ike just cuts it down senselessly. And everyone's just like, what the fuck?
That scene was, from start to finish, I thought was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So funny. And then for that brutality to happen, I'm just like in shock, like actual shock watching it. But I think it's really interesting because it's definitely in this scene that we really see the changes, I suppose, that they've made to Sir Ike of Dennesley. And he's very vastly different from the book in this adaptation. He's still got the sort of religious zealotism that he has in the book, and he's very, very serious about what he does, and he's, very committed to knightly virtues and whatnot. He's definitely made to seem very young, naive, a little bit foolish, and too eager. He's like, I'm a knight. I must do knightly things because I'm a knight. Yeah. It doesn't come across well, as we can see when he savagely cuts down a harmless creature that Geralt said we just given him some food, he would have gone away.
Yeah. It's funny that you say you love this scene because, it's not that I didn't like it. Not that I hated it either. It's just it creeped me out on a very visceral level. Yeah. There was something about the monster, I think. This scene cuts straight to a shot of its decapitated head. Yeah. And it's like, It's one of those things that I was just like, this doesn't sit right with me. And I've said on previous episodes of the podcast that I just can't stomach gore like this. Yeah. So there's just something about it that left me with a dry mouth.
Those two connecting scenes perfectly captures, I think, personally, Sapkowski's sense of humour. Reading The Witcher, some of it's very, very funny, but then is preceded or followed by something very, very harsh and very savage, and then we're instantly sort of brought back to the darkness of the world. There's definitely no punches held in that, and I think even with something that's, quite funny, quite charming, Jaskier going off to find some lunch for these lovely ladies, and then this monster just being savagely taken out and, head on a spike. Yeah. Stuff like that really does quite well capture Sapkowski's work and the feel of the world in general.
Yeah. Because I think that there definitely are absurdist elements in his writing throughout the short stories in the saga. The silliness of the show, I think, definitely surprised some people who were expecting, Game of Thrones. Yeah. There's a lot of grim and dark fantasy that's out in the world right now. So it's interesting to see something that is still fantasy, but that doesn't take itself, so remarkably seriously. Yeah. In the next scene, as I said, we kind of do a smash cut to this decapitated Herica head. We're now around the campfire with the hunting party. Boholtz threatens the dwarves, the Witcher, and Yennefer. Boholtz is one of the Reavers, and the rest of them kind of have a conversation. They're just kind of chit-chatting. Eventually, Ike, who had ate something foul from the Herica, gets a bit of a stomach ache and then goes to leave the camp, and by morning, he's dead.
This whole scene unpacks a hell of a lot, not just about more about the characters and what they're doing, but the world state as well, which is really, really nice. We definitely get more of a feeling of when this story happens in the sort of grand timeline or grand tapestry of the series, which is really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the information that we get from this comes from Yarpen. Yarpen tells the group about Nilfgaard's conquests. He's telling the group that, Nilfgaard is blazing through. They're going to get to Sodden soon, and then they'll go through Redania to Meria. Borch just says to the group, and then he subtweets Yennefer in there. He says that there should have been someone with a stronger hand to temper Nilfgaard's religious zeal. And at that point, she just excuses herself.
I think Borch is wonderfully portrayed by Ron Cook in this episode, absolutely wonderfully. When he says that to the group, but obviously, really saying it to Yennefer. Yeah. There's something knowing about the way he says it, and obviously that becomes sort of clear as a big dragon and they know stuff. But yeah, there's something just sort of very wise and knowing about the way he says it, but without outright saying, well, it should have been you, Yennefer, or, whatever. Yeah. He doesn't sort of outright say it, which, he still sort of keeps the mystery about it, which is very, very nice in that scene.
The scene, I think, is just beautiful as well as it's been shot. Something that came out of that quarantine watch party was that Lauren actually said that this fireside scene was shot in broad daylight, and their colorist, Jet, had to work really hard to make it look like dusk, which is pretty cool. Just the atmosphere of it, I think, does feel very intimate, despite the hostility that's in the scene.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely fractions in the party, as it were. There's definitely, two camps, really. The Reavers and then everyone else. And it's nice that even though there's an element of competition in what they're doing to slay this dragon for King Nidemir, there's still an element of camaraderie between everyone else, minus the Reavers, which is nice. And which, yeah, like you said, we definitely see them just sort of hanging about, chilling, chatting, making jokes and sitting around the campfire and talking about world politics. It's really nice to see the actors that they chose to play the dwarves. Usually in fantasy and, especially during the 80s, people who were cast in those types of roles were comic relief and jokey characters and weren't taken seriously. It's really nice to see representation being taken seriously now. Those guys did an absolutely fantastic job. That they are actors and they did a wonderful job at what they were doing. So nice to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. At least for me, I think it was unexpected. We've gotten, I think, used to seeing a very particular kind of characterization of dwarves in pop culture. So you think Gimli from Lord of the Rings, like that's the default. So it's interesting to see, a different kind of characterization here in both the actors and the way that their storyline is handled. I'm really curious to see if we're going to get more non-humans throughout the course of the series. Contention between humans and non-humans is a really big part of the Witcher saga as a whole. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I too am looking forward to that. It's going to be great to see how they're portrayed. So, like I said earlier, they've really seemed to have minimalized some of the elements of the story and sort of taken away certain characters and given you, I suppose, the ones that are most relevant to the story at its core bones. It was interesting to see, especially in this camp scene, how they all interact with each other. In the book, there was a lot of sort of hatred and disgust thrown at Yennefer's way from kind of everyone, really. It's interesting to see that there wasn't that much. I think they view each other as sort of worthy opponents or competition, but there's no sort of hatred being slung around between, like, say, the dwarves and Yennefer, and, there's a little bit between the Reavers, but, they're not nice people. But I thought that was very, very interesting, that's one thing that they definitely changed, along with, Sir Ike being quite different in his portrayal. They very much changed how Yennefer was seen to everyone else in this adaptation.
Yeah, they ended up changing the Reavers as well, because the Reavers were the ones who had a camaraderie with the group. It wasn't Yennefer.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I think we'll get a chance to, talk about the characterization of those individual characters later on. So in the morning, Yennefer can't find Ike. And it turns out that as he, relieved himself from whatever he ate the night before, someone killed him. So he's found with his pants down at the bottom of a ravine. The group, though, has to continue to march on. As they continue, Yarpen proposes an alternate route to the dragon, splitting up from the Reavers. Geralt confronts Yennefer about her purpose here, and it turns out that she wants the dragon to cure her infertility. At the same time, Yennefer now learns about Geralt's child surprise. This is also a very heavy scene. We get a second round of dialogue between Geralt and Yennefer, and its contents are much deeper than their first conversation. And it talks about, a lot of their individual insecurities and their fears.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, there's a lot here that happens. This is where we really start to see some of their issues be unpacked, I suppose, with each other. And, getting to the bottom of why everyone's involved in this. It's a shame, because I think we see Yennefer open up to Geralt here a little bit, where she, makes clear that she's after this dragon because it's an infertility cure. And I'm just sitting there like, Geralt, why did you react like that? Just sort of laughs at her, you a mother. And it's like, that's not it, man. That's not it.
Yeah.
It's such a shame, because there she is kind of opening up to him. And, the two of them remain always guarded with each other. And, when they open up, they're very closely guarded with each other. And it's not often they open up to each other. When they do, it doesn't always go down well with the other person. Yeah, I just thought this was quite a sad scene, because also we see much more development now with Yennefer, and she's got to a stage in her life where she's looking back on her past decisions, and while she may not 100% regret, becoming a sorceress and becoming this independent woman that she's become, there's certain elements of this, her sacrifice, that she definitely regrets. And we definitely get to see more insight into how both of them, Geralt and Yennefer, feel about, Geralt becoming a witcher. It wasn't his choice. Yennefer becoming a sorceress wasn't her choice. And we start to really unpack these things. Really, these professions, things that they do on a daily basis, aren't as cracked up as they're meant to be or seem. They're not as noble or as wonderful as they may look. And him accidentally sort of dropping that, my child is surprised, I'd rather use it as Brooksabate.
I know. How dumb.
Yeah, like you're just saying all the wrong things, my guy.
Yeah.
I really feel for Yennefer here because she's really opening up to Geralt and he's not dealing with it in the best way, in a supportive way.
No, that's a really excellent way of putting it. Obviously, given their histories, it's understandable that they're not really sure what to do with this vulnerability and how to share it with each other. But it reads as being horribly tone-deaf and awkward.
Yeah.
Watching this, there's so much secondhand embarrassment. Talking about the scene again, maybe not when I was watching it, but definitely talking about it again. It's like, why would you do that? Hearing about why Yennefer wants to do this, she wants this dragon in order to cure her infertility, which was taken away from her at Aretuza.
Her choice, I think she refers to it as.
Yeah. We saw this again in episode 5, the previous episode in Bottled Appetites, where she, drew her reproductive organs onto her stomach and then, tried to summon the djinn. Presumably it's been a number of years since the last episode. There's kind of an increase in her desperation for this. This is starting to seem even more futile the more and more we get on, which isn't really helped by Geralt being just so, as you said, unsupportive and kind of skeptical about why she's here and if it's even a worthy pursuit for her.
Yeah, it's always a bit of a train wreck sometimes watching their relationship and how it sort of evolves or their interactions with each other. And it's always quite sad, really, because there's these two people that crave each other or crave that connection with someone, but they're not used to it. And let's be real, yes, they're decades old, but this is their first real relationship with someone. Geralt's been a social outcast for how many years? He doesn't really know how to talk to people or interact with people because society shuns him. And possibly much the same to a degree with Yennefer. And her time in court must be very superficial and proper, and you must do this, you must do all these social etiquettes that she's got to adhere to. It's not real, if that makes sense. They've, no doubt had passing romances or whatever it is, that and the other, as they've gone about their lives. But to each other, they're having really real feelings for. And I don't think they understand how to deal with those. They're very much stumbling over each other and stumbling over what to say with each other, but it comes out so severe sometimes and so horribly and so sad because you just want to shake the two of them and just be like, be honest with each other, tell each other what you want, and it's heartbreaking sometimes to watch. But I think Henry and Anya did an absolutely fantastic job in this scene, and the character development that they show for these two characters is wonderful. I think personally one of my biggest highlights from the entire series was literally Anya as Yennefer.
Yeah,
the journey that we go through watching her, phenomenal, absolutely fantastic. The need for this fertility, need to be a mother, just gets stronger and stronger throughout the years. Throughout the rest of the series, she sort of mentions that she's done everything, but that's the only thing that she's not done. But she's not done it because she's not been able to do it.
Yeah.
And like she says, her choice has been taken away from her, admittedly sort of by her own desire at the time. But even that's a really interesting thing to unpack with Yennefer. Yeah, she made a choice 70, 50, whatever years ago that now she regrets, and that's quite sad.
The conversation that Rob is referencing comes up in episode 8 much more, and it's a conversation between Yennefer and Tissaia. She talks about, I've done everything, but I still don't have a legacy. This idea of legacy is something that we continually revisit, and we'll actually see it later on in the episode in a conversation between Geralt and Borch at the end. So this is an idea that these main characters are grappling with. What is the legacy that they'll leave behind as people who are incredibly independent and don't really have any loyalties or aren't required to have any loyalties? And that's probably something that hopefully the show will get to in season 2 and on.
And not even the legacies they'll leave behind, but what legacies they don't care if they leave behind. You've got Yennefer grasping at any straw that she can to be a mother. But then you've got Geralt, which again is just an absolute kick in the teeth to Yennefer when he's like, my child of surprise, I use it as Brooksabate. He's got this opportunity to have this legacy or have something akin to a daughter. He can quite happily just walk away from it, leave it behind, not care. I think that's even more heartbreaking for Yennefer.
Yeah. So we'll probably see the fallout of that in the next episode, episode 7.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get an opportunity to, again, as these themes continually come up. I guess when it comes to Geralt's child surprise, he lets that slip in like a very strange line. As you said, he's like, I would rather use my child surprise as brooks of bait. He's trying to make the case that children are not suited to their professions. You can't tote around a child as a witcher or a sorceress. And he lets that slip. You know, to me, it kind of reads as out of character, but it's okay. Yennefer immediately turns around and is just like, what? You have a child surprise? And then that's when she gets incredibly angry that Geralt has cheated destiny to get a child. Part of me wonders, like, did Yennefer not think of that? Yennefer, did you try, like, saving people who were dying and just get a child surprise of your own?
I mean, I guess from Yennefer's perspective, it's very different. You know, there's obviously a very different feeling for being, like, a mother, like, this is mine, I grew this, you know, as opposed to I've happened upon a situation and now I have a child, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I think, again, the line that follows it is from Geralt. And to me, the writing here feels a little bit out of character. But he says, you know, every time I'm with you, I speak more in 5 minutes than I have in weeks. I'm paraphrasing. And then, like, the conversation just, like, ends. And then he tells her that, like, they're taking another route with the dwarves, hopefully to cut off the Reavers.
I didn't necessarily read it as, like, out of character for him to say those things, personally. I think it's a case of we're able to explore a bit more with Geralt now that we're seeing him in a visual sort of capacity.
Yeah.
I really think that Geralt, in his awkward, not quite understanding social structures and conversations and how things, you know, happen, kind of tries to pass it off as a bit of a joke, you know, my child is surprised, brooks of bait, you know, we don't need children, that sort of thing, not really understanding or realising how important it is to Yennefer. Still, even though all that nonsense with the djinn happened, but there we are. I digress. He's not very good at picking things up, bless him. Yeah, I don't know. I think he definitely read the situation wrong, and Yennefer definitely does something to him, you know, which makes him on edge and he's uncomfortable, but he wants to be with her. And I think that's him not understanding these new feelings that he's got. I know, you know, for both of them, like I said, they kind of stumble around this relationship with each other. They're not used to it. And I just thought it was really sad when he said, you know, I say more when you're around than I have in weeks. And yeah, I don't know. I think that's just their reality as a couple. As dysfunctional as it is, like, yeah,
that's definitely true. I think that there is, like, a very naive romantic in Geralt, albeit one that just doesn't really know how to go about a seemingly genuine relationship. Yeah. Maybe out of character wasn't the right phrasing. I think it's just, you know, the writing in this specific scene feels a little clunky for Geralt.
Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
I don't know if I can explain it better than that, but I also don't have any immediate alternatives to offer. Like, I do like the writing for Yennefer in the specific scene, but I don't know. I just feel that Geralt's lines felt a little clunky here.
Yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from with that. Because we know Geralt. We know him from the books, we know him from what we've seen previously in the series, and we feel comfortable that we know who Geralt is. But he's definitely caught on the back foot with this as much as I think we are as an audience. So it definitely feels clunky what he's saying, probably because it is, you know, it's stuff that he's not expecting he needs to say or should say or could be saying, you know, so it's new territory and ground for him, this big monster hunter who's, you know, killed this, that and the other, but can't talk to women.
And I think it'll be interesting to see, like, how the writers choose to develop his character over the coming seasons and where his relationships go. Before we get to the shady Dwarven shortcut, we're going to hand it over to Larson Witcherflix for recent news on the Netflix show. When we come back, Rob and I will continue our discussion of rare species.
Hey, it's Lars from Witcherflix, and this is Tidings from Toussaint. Welcome back, everybody. There are a lot of things to report from the last week, so let's hop right into it. Let's start with the biggest news. Netflix has released first glimpse into Season 2 of The Witcher, in the form of promo pictures for our main characters with their new look in the new season. Geralt, for example, can be seen in his new armor, including some shoulder pads, a belt around his leg for his Witcher potions, as well as a new chest plate, looking like that of a Greek or Roman soldier. To have a look for yourself, pay breakfastinbeauclair.com a visit. Moreover, Netflix revealed the official synopsis for Season 2. Convinced Yennefer's life was lost at the Battle of Sodden, Geralt of Rivia brings Princess Cirilla to the safest place he knows, his childhood home of GoodMorhen. While the continent's kings, elves, humans and demons strive for supremacy outside its walls, he must protect the girl from something far more dangerous, the mysterious power she possesses inside. In other Season 2 news, we have some new leaked pictures from the set. Redanian Intelligence has obtained pictures from the Witcher set at Chopham Common in Surrey, England. On the pictures we can see Freya Allen or her stunt double as Ciri wearing some light armor. This scene is possibly taking place when she's training at GoodMorhen in the first bunch of episodes in Season 2. On these pictures we can see two more women. One has blonde hair, the other red hair. Redanian Intelligence speculates that this tall blonde elf-like woman could be Lara Dorren. She's one of Ciri's ancestors and was a powerful sorceress responsible for the elder blood that runs in Ciri's veins and gives her her special powers. Redanian Intelligence adds that the red-haired woman could be Queen Sarah of Redania. She was the Redanian queen who adopted Lara Dorren's daughter Rhiannon. The story of Lara and Sarah is a very important one for Ciri's storyline, even though from the books we don't really know what had happened between the two women. Elves and humans tell different versions of the story, how the meeting of Lara and Sarah went, and why Queen Sarah decided to take the little Rhiannon in. Even if it isn't these two women on Redanian Intelligence's pictures, their story will definitely play an important role in Season 2 or in later seasons. On other set pictures that were photographed by a local woman and released by getsurrey.co.uk, we can see a field and an artificial dead tree in the middle of it. The field is grim and dark and looks like a battle had taken place. Was the tree destroyed in the battle? Or does it have something to do with the Lasheen, whose appearance in Season 2 was leaked by Redanian Intelligence a few months ago? Well, we will see. There's also some casting news to report for Season 2. Unfortunately, actor Thua Rasmussen, who was supposed to play fan-favorite Witcher Eskel, is no longer able to be part of the Witcher production due to conflicting schedules caused by the pandemic and the postponed filmings. Instead, Deadline.com has learned that Swiss actor Basil Eidenbenz will now play Eskel. He's known for roles on TV shows such as Victoria, The Athena, or the Swiss series Best Friends. Moreover, two book characters will make an appearance in Season 2 of The Witcher, according to Redanian Intelligence. The lawyers Codringa and Jacob Fenn of the detective agency with the same name will show up in Season 2 and will probably assist Geralt in solving some mysteries. In other news that was not confirmed yet, Season 3 of The Witcher is very likely to happen. Redanian Intelligence reports that Season 3 has been added to the database of the Writers Guild of America. This would only happen if there were actual plans to do a third season. So let's keep our fingers crossed that Netflix will confirm this officially and we can look forward to even more adventures on the continent. Now let's head into the realm of rumors for a moment. According to Business Insider Daniel Richman, who has already made some correct predictions for Season 1 and 2 before, reports that Netflix is considering another Witcher spin-off. Redanian Intelligence reports that according to these rumors, one of these projects could focus on stories about the mages and sorceresses in the Witcher world. We will see how much truth there is to this rumor. We already have a confirmed spin-off miniseries named Blood Origin, focusing on the conjunction of the spheres, elves, and the creation of the first Witcher, and an animated movie about Vesemir. Netflix seems to be very confident in The Witcher. This is a very good thing. Anyway guys, that's it for me for today. I hope you all stay safe and well. We talk again in the next episode of Breakfast in Beauclair. Until then, thanks again for listening and good luck on the path.
Hey everyone, welcome back from the break. I'm here with Rob, the Undead Gamer, discussing rare species from Netflix's The Witcher. When we left off, Geralt and Yennefer had joined a dragon hunt, recently agreeing to take a shortcut through the mountains. In the next scene, Yarpen leads the company across a narrow footbridge on a cliff. Borch, Taya, and Vea fall. At camp that evening, Jaskier confronts Geralt following Borch's presumed death. Geralt enters Yennefer's tent and they make love. Afterwards, they have a conversation about their childhoods and dreams. Yennefer wakes in the morning and is surprised to see Geralt is still there. Yarpen says that they know a shortcut, and then when they get to the shortcut, it's like a 1-foot ledge on the side of a cliff. Interestingly enough, this is actually filmed in a parking lot in Budapest.
Oh, wow.
So they did like a really wonderful job of like adding a certain element of danger to all of the scenes that you see them on the bridge. I guess we'll get to what happens when Borch falls, but there does seem to be a certain amount of danger. They all try to cross the bridge. The dwarves have no problem. Unfortunately, though, a plank that's holding Borch slips, and he ends up on the end of it. Geralt tries to save him, and he falls. And Taya and Vea let go. They follow their leader down into the mist. And that leaves Geralt upset and distraught going out of that scene. But yeah, like the cliff was very well done in terms of like effects. The fall, admittedly, it did kind of make me laugh watching it.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
It was Borch falling that did it for me. I was just like, oh, that's
Yeah, it was a little cheesy. There's definitely something that it must remind me of, and it must be from the 80s or early, like, 90s.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. There's something that's reminiscent of that doesn't age well.
Yeah.
So it was a shame they filmed it in that way.
Yeah. I think that in terms of emotional weight, this scene is able to accurately portray kind of the agony that Geralt feels for having failed Borch, Taya, and Vea. Obviously, that was a little bit undermined by the production of him falling, but, you know, we do get to see the outcome of it in the next scene where Jaskier is trying to comfort Geralt.
I think that's it as well. Like there's a lot of weight that he puts onto himself in a lot of situations. And this is, you know, no doubt why he doesn't want to get too close to people. And no doubt why he tries to steer away from relationships and social interactions with people, because he doesn't want that pressure or that weight of something like this happening. I mean, this whole scene gave me anxiety. Once again, I was just reminded of the level or lack of level of health and safety in these fantasy worlds.
Yeah.
Like, Lord of the Rings and Middle-earth is enough. Like, you've seen those Mines of Moria. There ain't no health and safety code going on there. It's exactly the same here on the continent. What is going on? Can we not have a safety rail or something at the very least? Honestly. But yeah, so that the whole thing, like, I felt Jaskier in that whole scene. I was like, no, if that was me, I'd be like, nope, just going back to the tavern. The dragon ain't worth it. I'm going back. It was anxiety the entire way. But yeah, the fall is definitely a little bit funny looking.
Yeah.
But definitely an emotive scene for Geralt and him wanting to help. And you see that weight and that emotion in his eyes when he's, you know, he lets them go. And even the fear of Yennefer being like, you know, you can't save them. Like, otherwise you'll die as well. Mm-hmm. And just the absolute dedication and loyalty that Taya and Vea have, which, you know, it's evident throughout the entire episode. They've done a fantastic job of showing that, and even in not many words as well. Mm-hmm. Wasn't even a second thought to them, and you could see that they just let go and knew that they would be okay. You know, they're going with their master, or however they view Borch. You know, they're
whatever that like relationship is.
Yeah, master's definitely the wrong word, but
in the books it seems like commissioner/daddy. Like, I don't know. I don't get daddy relationship here, but it's like high key daddy relationship in the books.
Yeah. But just even that awkward conversation that they have with Jaskier, where they're like, he is the most beautiful.
Yeah.
And Jaskier's like, his face, he's like, what the fuck? Did I read this wrong? Like, what is this relationship? I thought you were just bodyguards. Is it like? It's kind of good that we didn't have that like hot tub scene from the book play out in the episode. I suppose then it would have been blindingly obvious for Jaskier.
Yeah, that is a line straight from the books. He is the most beautiful. I do love Taya and Vea throughout the episode. I do wish that one line had been a little closer to what had been in the books. In the show, she almost sounds exasperated with Jaskier when she says, like, he's the most beautiful. Mm. In the books, it's actually Geralt that asks, why do you guys ride with him? Either Taya or Vea responds in almost like thoughtful wonder. So she's very much struggling for the words to describe Borch or why she's riding with him. She says, like, he is the most beautiful. You know, I think I would have liked to see that a little more than the exasperation in reaction to Jaskier.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. She's grasping for the word to describe her relationship or their relationship with him. I think in the book it comes across as a bit more genuine, whereas in this adaptation she almost says it very matter-of-factly. You know, he's the most beautiful. Like, why wouldn't I? I think you get more of a sense of or a different sense of their relationship, I think, in this adaptation.
I think that's a good way of putting it. Like, I mean, obviously the characterizations between original source material and the adaptation are going to be slightly different. The line felt a little shoehorned there. I do think it's nice that they included it. There's a small line when Jaskier confronts Geralt and they're just kind of sitting on this rock as they make camp. There was like a brief line here that, might not be a reference to the books, but if it is a reference to the books, it's quite cool. Jaskier says, we could head to the coast, get away for a while. And at least to me, it sounds like it could be a reference to A Little Sacrifice.
Oh my God, that story.
Yeah.
Love that story so much.
When I was watching the episode this morning, I was like, oh, that'd be nice if like the story of A Little Sacrifice lives in between this 8-episode series somewhere.
I mean, like on a personal note, I really hope we see that story in season 2 because I probably break down with tears watching that if it's done well, as it were. It's one of my favourite stories from that short story collection.
Yeah.
But I think that whole scene is really beautiful, really wonderfully shot as well. And, they're both getting over losing Borch and Tear and Ver. It's clear that both of them, even in the short space of time, Borch has done a lot and said a lot to affect their lives, and really made them think with those sort of choice, very knowing things that he says or the way he says certain things. And even Dandelion's like, you go to the coast, he's thinking, am I happy? What can I do in my life? What am I striving for? It's nice to sort of see them have that conversation about what's next. I mean, what are we doing? We're just sort of traveling about, but are we happy doing that? Could we be doing something else? Is there something else we want in our lives?
It also shows a very lovely aspect of, this male friendship, right? Like we started their journey with them in episode 2. We met them at the edge of the worlds. They went and had their adventure. Jaskier can toss a coin. And then we see him again in episode 4 of Bastards, Banquets, and Burials. And then, he's talking about the chamomile on the bottom. And we know that they have some sort of good relationship. Again, we go from episode 4 to episode 5, Bottled Appetites, and we see Geralt care for Jaskier while his neck is all swollen. He's very concerned for his friend. And then, we get to episode 6, and we see their relationship kind of continue to grow. Jaskier has a lot of dedication to Geralt, and we see this in this scene, which I think is really beautiful. He has a lot of consideration for his friend's feelings. He wants to make sure that his friend is all right. Geralt doesn't really seem like the kind of character to reach out if he needs emotional support, that kind of thing. So it's nice to see that Jaskier offers it to him as best he can.
It's also continuing to see that development of their relationship together. Like we said, we get different snapshots of Geralt and Yennefer together and talking through their things, or it's been years since they've seen each other. We also get the same sense, like you said, throughout each episode where we get interaction with Geralt and Jaskier, that sometimes it's been years, or maybe they've been traveling together for the past month or whatever it is. It's still nice to see that progression of that friendship with each other, whether Geralt will admit it or not. Of course he cares about Jaskier. The same to be said to Jaskier to Geralt, very obviously. I'll rub chamomile on you, that's fine. But yeah, it's just another snapshot of how that relationship has continued to grow. It very much seems like at this stage in their relationship, they are good friends, if you can call that relationship like good friends. I don't know, because they're just being very open and honest with each other.
Yeah.
And sort of having a very general conversation. Like, let's talk about the future. Let's sit and talk about what we're going to do. How do you feel? It just seems very open, honest, and genuine.
It's a really nice example of loyalty and of male friendship. We don't necessarily see wholesome male friendships in a ton of shows. Certainly they're out there, but it's nice to see that here in this fantasy world as well. I think Joey Beatty does a lovely job with Jaskier throughout the show.
Fantastic, yeah.
He's great fun. He's great
Absolutely.
fun.
And even just showing that range that he's done, where most of the time he's that comic relief, he's the loud bard, but also, this scene, just even the way it's shot, just really brings everything down. And they're almost like whispering to each other almost, they're pondering in thought, they're talking very low to each other. There's not a lot of high energy here. Let's cut away the nonsense and let's just talk like you and me. And that's really nice seeing. Yeah, like you say, we don't see many wholesome male friendships, and it's nice when you do, because that's what friendship is. It's let's sit down. How are you feeling? How are you? You okay?
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing, and it's great.
By the end of it, Jaskier is asking him, what makes you happy? I think Borch would want us to really be critical of what, for lack of a better term, brings us joy. And that causes Geralt to have a think, and ultimately ends up entering Yennefer's tent. So he goes inside her tent, she approaches him, they start to kiss, and then they have a brief conversation, and then they start making out and making love. Geralt mentions the lilac and gooseberry scent. He's admitting to Yennefer, the saddest part is when that scent fades after you leave. Well, one, you can definitely get that scent from Charlotte from Bangerberg Glamorai. You could use code hanza for 10% off, and that code is evergreen. So use it whenever you'd like. It's really interesting to see like how he talks about the effect that she's had on him. And then as it turns out, she says, but you left first. You left in Rind in the last episode, Bottled Appetites. So we kind of get the tumultuous years-long relationship. And then we get like that montage on top of that could have been in the top of the episode, but we now see it here. We're digging into not only their insecurities, but into the grievances that they have held against each other.
The cinematography is just like fantastic. There's so many beautifully shot scenes, and just the relationship that Geralt and Yennefer have, but you know, the way they're portrayed by Henry and Anya is the on-screen chemistry that they have is just so raw, so believable, so real. They've done a fantastic job with this tumultuous on and off romance that they have with each other.
Yeah.
And just the way this scene is like underlined by her sweet kiss as well, and that just builds up, and it's just beautiful. It's just perfect. I love watching the two of them together on screen. Mm-hmm. It's just fantastic. After all of the stuff that's happened, you know, the previous conversation he had with Yennefer, losing Borch and really reflecting on the things Borch has said, you know, he didn't just go there to, you know, mess around. Like he genuinely came here for her, you know. Yeah, just I don't know, the things they say to each other, like, yeah, when that scent goes, it's nice that they finally kind of sit down and put away the nonsense and just genuinely talk to each other for what seems like one of the first times, you know. Mm-hmm. Oh, you left first. It's like, yeah, well, you know, they really get to it and open up. And yeah, like you said, they're talking about their childhoods and stuff. There's something just really nice, genuine and sweet about that interaction. They continue to grow. And yes, they're making mistakes with each other as they stumble along this field of relationship with each other. But there are elements where it's clear they both sort of try to do better and right by each other. Mm-hmm. And I think this is one of the scenes that definitely shows it. Also, if I could have that tent to take to LARP that is really tiny, really, really tiny, easy to transport, but then is massive on the inside, like, yeah, hit me up, please. I want that tent.
Yeah, TARDIS tent.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to the music, something that we've talked about repeatedly in episodes of the podcast is the way that Sonia Belousova and Gianna Ostinelli, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, have composed these different layers of the music throughout each episode. And Her Sweet Kiss is another example of that. We see the song in multiple forms, and then it comes to a crescendo here.
Like I said, it's one of the most beautiful songs in the whole series and my favourite. They've done a fantastic job composing this music. In the end, when we hear Joey Beatty, you know, sing as Jaskier over it, this arrangement here where it builds up with this scene just adds so much depth and colour to this romance that they have with each other, and how it just continues to sort of flourish and them reconnecting. Mm-hmm. It's something that's just so emotive and just beautiful to watch, really. I can't pinpoint it on like one particular thing. I think the writing here is fantastic in this scene. The performances are fantastic in this scene. The setting, you know, where they're just alone and they're in a safe sort of place and environment with each other, and the music, it's just chef's kiss.
Yeah, I do think that it was really beautifully done. Some of the details that we got from Quarantine Watch Party back in April about this scene, Matt D'Ambrosio said that Haley, the writer of the episode, wrote the lyrics to Jaskier's song with the composers Sonia Belousova and Gianna Ostinelli, with some help from Declan Dabara, who sang The Last Rose of Cintra. And Lauren, about Her Sweet Kiss, said that it's the perfect backdrop for the love story of this episode. The last thing that we got from this scene, Lauren mentioned, mostly what I remember of shooting this scene is director Charlotte Brandstrom calling in more sweat. They've just had sex, remember? So just funny production things when you think about like the realism of showing this kind of physicality on screen, and trying to convey exactly where these characters are. After the scene takes place, we've kind of talked about the vulnerabilities that they've had. After they make love, they're just kind of basking in it. They start to kind of reveal a lot more of their insecurities and their vulnerabilities. Yennefer asks Geralt, have you always wanted to be a witcher? Did you want to be anything else? Geralt asks her, did you always want to be a sorceress? As Rob mentioned earlier in the episode, this is where we really start to unpack why they are the way that they are.
It feels like they're just having a real genuine conversation and genuine connection and learning about each other, you know, as any couple would do, and asking the questions I suppose any couple would do, you know.
At that time, yeah.
Yeah, at that time. I mean, yeah, the amount of times my girlfriend's been like, so did you always want to be a Witcher Rob? I'm like, oh, you know, it's one of those things to do. It's just like, yeah, so it's nice to see just sort of like some genuine relationship stuff sometimes in a show. Do you know what I mean? That we can all just relate to, I suppose. Basking in the afterglow of making love and just chatting.
Yeah.
You know, just chatting, you know? Just about the notes that you said from the watch party. With the writer of the episode writing the lyrics alongside the composer and the music to that, I think that level of commitment, production, and dedication to what they're creating speaks volumes. It's in the same way that Peter Jackson, when he was making the Lord of the Rings, he was involved in every single aspect of the production. But he was there with the orchestra in the room when they were recording to make sure that the composer really understood what was trying to be portrayed in said scene. That just shows the real level of dedication that they had to this project. Yeah. They wanted every note to hit, everything to be right, everything to work in unison together. In some productions, everything's very separate, you know. The actors go do their thing, they record it, then it's off to the editor, or, you know, it's off to post-production, it's off to the composer, and they all sort of do their different things, and then all at the end, it's all kind of come together and strung together, and there's your finished product. It kind of speaks volumes that they're involved in every step of the way to make sure that this is right, this is what we want to put out to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about this a little bit on episode 17, which covered 4 marks. You know, Toss a Coin was also written by the writer of that episode, Jenny Klein. So it definitely makes sense that Haley Hall, who wrote this episode, also ended up writing Her Sweet Kiss. As you said, like, it's pretty cool that they've developed like this 360 relationship that goes around production.
To have, as an actor, anything that's really fully prepared for you and you're given, here's the finished product, that gives you so many tools as an actor to work off of because everything's there. Like, from Joey Beatty's point of view, he's probably, here's the song that I'm going to be performing in this episode. Now it's here as a finished piece. Like, I can fully comprehend it and use that in my performance, especially with TV and film. You don't always get an opportunity or a very long opportunity to rehearse scenes or rehearse certain things, barring, you know, fight choreography and that sort of thing usually, like you do in theatre, where obviously you go through months or weeks or days or whatever it is of rehearsals, and then you perform the thing. It doesn't always happen that way in TV and film. Usually you're given the script and then you know, do your bits and then you're on set straight away and you do the thing. Sometimes you get a little bit of back and forth, let's rehearse a few moves here and there, but it's only like 5-10 minutes or so before, right, camera's on, action, let's go. Yeah, it speaks volumes again, like I said, just the production of the whole series. Yeah.
You know, precisely, Her Sweet Kiss definitely takes us throughout the episode in the ways that it's intertwined through all these characters, from Joey Beatty, you know, at the top of the episode, singing it, through the score, to the actual full recording at the end during the credits. It definitely ties the whole episode together and serves, as Lauren said, as a very lovely backdrop for Yennefer and Geralt's relationship throughout the episode. So Yennefer wakes in the morning and she's surprised to see Geralt is still there. Outside the camp, Yennefer resolves to kill the dragon despite Geralt's plea to turn back. They realize the dwarves are gone. Yennefer runs ahead and freezes them on her way to the cave and enters alone. She sees the dead body of a green dragon guarding an egg. Téa and Vea appear with a golden dragon, which is revealed to be Borch. The Reavers arrive and attack. Yennefer, Geralt, Téa, and Vea kill them.
When Villain Trettenmirth is revealed, instantly better CGI than the Polish TV series from in the early 2000s. Straight off the bat there.
Yeah, it definitely looks more realistic. I think just very different than what people were expecting. I do know that there was like backlash online about the Golden Dragon. I was a little surprised, but not to say that it was bad. I was just surprised.
Yeah.
Part of the reason for that, Lauren actually addressed it during the quarantine watch party. She said, when we were working on the detailed design of Villain Trettenmirth, Game of Thrones had just premiered their final season, and I was terrified of presenting something close to Daenerys' dragons. So that definitely factored into how Villain Trettenmirth looked. Not a good or bad thing. I think people were just surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, the way the whole scene plays out, you know, Yennefer sort of coming in and the big reveal of Téa and Vea is still alive, and Villain Trettenmirth been Borch the whole time, and, you know, and hearing the story of the Green Dragon, she died trying to protect her egg, protect her young. I think that really hits home. You can see it on Yennefer's face. Like it really hits home for Yennefer that she was happy to kill this dragon so she could be a mother, not realizing or knowing that this green dragon herself was a mother guarding an egg, you know? And it's, I think instantly there she sees a different side of things and realizes what's important here.
We do get a double down on that from the actual production and direction as well. There's a brief camera shot where Yennefer's being told this dragon's story, and it pans from her face to her abdomen and to the dagger that she's holding in that shot as well.
Yeah.
So even without, words, we're being shown that Yennefer has an important parallel to this story.
Yeah, not even just that pan down to her abdomen. She's holding that dagger with intent, and then she loosens her grip on it. All of that combined, you totally see her intention just go out the window as she understands the situation that she's now in, basically, and realizes what's, important here is protecting that baby, protecting that egg, which is something that, as a mother or as a parent, you obviously want to do. And I think you definitely see that.
Eventually, then, they have a conversation with Borch, and then the Reavers arrive. Because the dwarves are frozen on the side of the mountain with Yennefer's magic, it just becomes Geralt, Yennefer, Thea, and Vea against the Reavers. And we get this huge brawl. I think this is now the second corny moment of the episode. After Borch's fall is the Ard kiss, which...
Oh, yeah. I love that. I don't know why. I just think it's that right amount of corny that I just love. And it's like, yeah. There's just something about it. It's definitely super corny, but I just think it just looks awesome, I think. It's something really cool. And just that slow-mo as well as the three guys get pushed back by Ard. And
yeah,
it's just, it's amazing.
Lauren did say in the Quarantine Watch Party thread that if writer Haley Hall could change one thing about the episode, it would be that Geralt Yen kiss in the cave. And Lauren just closed that tweet with a sorry, babe.
Love that.
We get to see all of them in full fight. As we've said throughout these Breakfast in Beauclair episodes, we don't always get to see Geralt fighting other humans, particularly throughout the books as well. So it's interesting, obviously, to see it happen continually here. And it's a little brutal because all of the Reavers ultimately are slaughtered between Thea, Vea, Geralt, and Yennefer. I just need to copy paste that every time I say it. What did you think about the scene as a whole?
I love the scene as a whole. The fight scenes in The Witcher as a whole continue to be brilliant, personally. And that scene was no different. It was fantastic to see Geralt fight that many enemies in fairly open sort of space, He was attacked from all sides, and Henry Cavill just looks really natural, I think, with a sword, with a weapon in his hand, and he flows so beautifully. I think one of the great things that Geralt's done, and with his fight choreographer as well, whose name I forget.
Vladimir Furtick.
There you go, perfect. They've done a fantastic job, I think, of portraying Geralt's fighting style in a very real and realistic looking way that looks natural and looks real. I mean, like, Henry Cavill has been not only just training with a sword, but a lot of his gym training as well. He did a video for Men's Health last year at some point. A lot of his training regime in the gym was also looking at how he can better his posture, better his endurance when it comes to using his sword. So he did a lot of shoulder work, a lot of posterior chain work and stuff like that helps when you're swinging a sword about for however many hours a day he had to do it to get, a little 5-minute scene. Yeah, I just think it's fantastic. And also, like, Yennefer in there as well, like, totally holding her own and, like, doing a bit of magic here and there, bits and bobs. And just, yeah, absolutely fantastic. And just the choreography of that scene and the way it's shot as well, when you got the shots from up above with the two of them sort of spinning around and fighting off. It's just fantastic. Just really, really cool. And obviously Thea and Vea just, like, kicking ass. Like, just great. Just really, really great.
Yeah, I definitely think aspects of this fight scene were wonderfully shot. It's interesting to see, as we go around to each of the little groups of fighting inside and outside of the cave. So we see Borch versus this one guy. At one point, just gets demolished by a column of fire.
Like overkill.
Yeah.
Overkill.
Way too much for one dude.
Borch is too much. Smells like barbecue in here now. Like, tone it down a bit.
He could have literally given him a poke straight through the stomach with just a claw.
Would have sufficed.
Yeah. definitely overcompensating there. And then we jump outside. We see Geralt and Yennefer against Boholt. We see Teyenve against some of the Reavers as well. So it's interesting to see like all these little parts of, these fight scenes, particularly when you get to like fight scenes with this many people. You think about big action blockbusters, how they have to go through like massive crowds. I'm particularly thinking of like the end scene in like Avengers Endgame, for example. This, we actually cut to each of the individual groups instead of kind of weaving through the environment the way that we did in Renfrey's fight in episode 1. So I think like there's some orientation. We do have a very easy landscape to work with as we're watching this scene go on. So despite the cuts, we know what's happening and where. It's easy for us as viewers to kind of follow along with the action, which is quite nice.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of like talk online about like, should Yennefer have swords? Should she not?
Why not?
Why not? I think that's true. I think it would have been cool to like see her use magic a lot more.
Agreed, yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't really mind the swords. I didn't have like a visceral reaction as I know that some people on the internet had. But it would have been cool to see more magic. Because we're not seeing as much here, it kind of gives us a little bit more of like wonder and awe by the time we get to episode 8 and see a full-scale magical battle.
And it's also nice to see the dark, gritty nature of the combat in The Witcher as well, which feels very real and how combat most likely was in the time of the sword and the axe.
Yeah, I'm sure Cyprian from episode 1 would have a lot of thoughts on how historically accurate this is.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it's like, perfect, wonderful. It's obviously still staged, by Hollywood to be wonderful and imaginative and all that. But it's not just, people clanging swords against each other. The scene with Boholt, he's fighting a Witcher. How are you going to beat a Witcher? He probably can't keep going toe-to-toe with him with just weapons. So he's going to play a bit dirty, a little bit rough, grabs a bit of dirt and throws it in his face. I think it's things like that kind of show, I don't know, sort of gritty realism to the world and the fighting. Not everything's honourable and by the sword. And, as Sir Ike would have it, it's dirty and we're fighting for our lives here.
Yeah. And then that brief moment where Yennefer just shanks Boholt through the neck. Ugh.
Yeah.
Pretty grim. Yeah, but that kind of puts an end to the fight. After or during this fight scene, Jaskier wakes at the camp, having been left behind by everyone. By the dwarves, by Geralt, and by Yennefer. He shuffles around to the cave.
Just classically late to the party.
Yeah, he's got his bag over his shoulder, like...
It's like, sorry, the traffic was horrendous. I got here as quick as I could. It's like, where is everybody?
Yeah. From the quarantine watch party, Lauren did reveal that his line on the way to the cave as he's passing the dwarves, he says, "Are we queuing for something?" And apparently that was a Joey Beatty ad-lib.
Love it.
Yeah. So Jaskier catches up to the dwarves. They all arrive at the cave, having missed the battle. Borch gives the dwarves dragon teeth as proof for the king's reward. He then speaks to the Witcher and Sorceress, revealing Geralt's last wish from episode 5, Bottled Appetites. Yennefer now believes their relationship is built upon the lie of the djinn's power and leaves. Jaskier attempts to comfort Geralt, and Geralt angrily sends him away. Borch now seems to be this all-knowing dragon. He just kind of, in a few words, just kind of dismantles a lot of the progress that Geralt and Yennefer have seemed to make throughout the episode.
It's a shame, but it's honest. The truth hurts, and it's those honest words and the realities of things that both of them need to hear, sadly, whether they want to agree with it or not, or whether we as the viewers that are, gunning for this relationship between Geralt and Yennefer, whether we want to hear it or not, it's the truth. Like he says, I'll save you all a lot of hurt now, sort of thing. Yeah, it's just totally brutal with the two of them.
Yeah, here in this scene, Yennefer first finds out about Geralt's wish. I think understandably from the perspective of her character, she has such an adverse reaction to Borch suggesting that Geralt had wished not to lose her. She says, like, that's why I can't get away from you. That's why I feel this way. And he's like, no, that's real. But, to her, it's like, well, how could we know? Jaskier tries to comfort Geralt again at this point, and Geralt just turns on him and says, like, all of this is your fault. I think the line he says is like, how come when I'm standing in a pile of shit, you're always the one shoveling it? He blames him for the child surprise, for the djinn, for everything. By the end of it, Jaskier just leaves. So we're again seeing Geralt on his own, yet again. And then I think that this leaves a very apt entry into his actions in episode 7 before a fall.
Yeah, it's. I think the whole scene is a little bit heartbreaking, really. You know, Yennefer just seeing it as a magic. This is a spell. This is why I can't escape you, rather than it being something real. And it's just a shame. And then obviously Geralt having all of that frustration and anger hits one of the closest people to him, as I think we as humans are prone to do. Sometimes we take our upset out on the people closest to us, and not shamefully. And he takes it out on Jaskier, who, while has been involved in some weird stuff with Geralt, is always there to pick him back up again and support him and be with him. Yeah, it's a shame that Jaskier takes the brunt of all of that. It just shows more about who Geralt is as a person. All of this is still very new to him. Socializing, these relationships, friends, whatever it is. And it's quite sad to see his dysfunctionality, I suppose.
Yeah. And like I said, by the end of this episode, I think the abandonment that they feared, it comes into play here. We've seen the vulnerabilities of both Yennefer and Geralt. And then, by the end, it seems like things that they've been afraid of kind of come to light, and then that becomes their reality. So as I said, I think that the events that happen in this episode definitely lead logically into Geralt's storyline in the next.
Yeah, because you see where those abandonment issues stem from. Mm-hmm. And then it all starts to make more sense, because we've already really seen it with Yennefer, and we know why she feels abandoned. Her backstory that we saw in episode 2, I think it was. So yeah, like seeing it later on starts to make more sense the more we uncover about Geralt. And even Jaskier, bless him, he could argue back and say this, that, and the other back to Geralt, but he just takes it on the chin. He understands his friend probably better than anyone else does. He understands Geralt and knows that you're angry, you don't mean this, I'll go. And when you've calmed down, we'll hang out again.
So I guess we'll see how these relationships net out. I do believe this is the last time that we see Jaskier for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. So this is ultimately where the relationship ends, at least for the moment. Hopefully we will see a continued develop of their relationship in season 2 and onward. We do know that they have a very long history and that they're very good friends. So hopefully we'll get to see that continue. And we'll get more of Joey Beatty as the series goes on. Before we get to series storyline and comparisons to the books, we're going to end today's discussion here. Join Rob, the UndeadGamr, and I in the next episode of Breakfast in Beauclair for our continued discussion of Netflix's The Witcher 106 Rare Species. Thanks for joining us at the Breakfast Table. For show notes, transcripts of each episode, and a complete list of our social platforms and listening services, head over to breakfastinbeauclair.com. Breakfast in Beauclair is created by Alyssa from GoodMorhen. It's hosted by Alyssa with the Tidings from Toussaint, news segment by Lars and Witcherflix. The show is edited by Alyssa with the Breakfast in Beauclair theme by Mojo Filter Media and the Tidings from Toussaint theme by Bettina Campomanes. Breakfast in Beauclair is produced by Alyssa in New York City with Louise of Covier, the owner of the Churlish Porpoise, Eric Segalden, Katie, the Redhead of Toussaint, Jacob E. Julie, Sylvia of Skellige, Jameson, Ava of Gullet, B. Haven of the Edge of the World, Jacob Meek, Charlotte from Megaberg Glamorai, Red Kite, the Original Roach, Ariel Kitty, the One True Chef, Dustin, Chris K. of Covier, and Libby, the Castel Ravello Sommelier. Special thanks to Rob the UndeadGamr for joining us for this episode and our international Hanza for their support.